Thank you, Chairman. Thank the panel for being here. It's interesting when we come to these hearings. This really has nothing to do with the health care law, but it does have to do with the health care of our Constitution. And I think this is the thing that probably bothers us more than anything else. And I was leaving the office today. I asked our guys, I said, listen, please do me a favor. Look up our oath of office. And I'm just going to go through this rather quickly. I do solemnly swear or affirm that I will faithfully execute the office of the President of the United States and will, to the best of my ability, preserve, protect, and defend the Constitution of the United States. They said, well, okay, well, give me the definition of an oath. An oath is a solemn, usually formal calling upon God or a god to witness to the truth of what one says, or to witness that one sincerely intends to do what one says. It's a solemn attestation of the truth and viability of one's words. Now, further, Webster's defines a law as a rule of conduct or action prescribed or formally recognized as binding or enforced by a controlling authority. Now, having listened to all of these different testimonies, and I read them last night, and I really found it interesting. We've really gotten beyond the debate right now, and we've tried to go off to the side. And there's an old saying out there, it goes like something like this: if you can't convince them, confuse them. And I've looked what's happened, and I got to tell you, from what I do every day, I'm an automobile dealer. And I have to follow laws as they are written. I don't have the ability to say, you know what, I don't particularly care for this part of the law, so I'm just not going to follow that. Here's another law that, you know what, I don't know what they were thinking about. Obviously, they didn't look far enough. They certainly didn't look into the private sector, but then again, I have to run a profitable business to stay in business. They don't. And it comes down to where we are today with this discussion. It is so difficult for those of us in the private sector to look at this and to think that this president or any future president can decide at his whim what parts of a law he's going to enforce or not enforce. So the question then becomes, how do you prepare a business model when the rules change every day? It could be something happens that it looks like, well, you know what, we didn't think about that part, so we'll just set that by our side. Or there could be something else that has an influence on what we're going to do, so we'll set that part aside. So, Ms. Turner, Ms. Pepins, you were all very, very good in what you said, and I really find this to be very, very difficult. If this is a law, and it is a law, and none of us are saying it's not a law, and we've made changes to this law, my question is, why does this president start to establish a precedent that is so dangerous for every president to follow? Because law is based on precedent. And if we can go back in the future, if we can go back and say, yeah, but let me tell you how it happened back when we had the Affordable Care Act. And this is what we decided to do. How in the world would anybody living in this country look at any law and really look at it as a law? Because this one isn't a law if it's not going to be enforced. And if it's not enforced, it truly is just words on paper. It means absolutely nothing. And the oath of office that we've all taken are just words. They don't mean anything, because if it doesn't come from your heart, if it doesn't come from who we basically are as Americans, and if we make this a political statement and not a statement to what you attest to, everything this country stands for, then we are missing the point. It's not about health care. It's about the health care of our Constitution. So if I'm off basis, please inform me, because I am so confused in the private sector as to what actually is a law. And you know what? A deadline doesn't seem to have that has no influence. It can come and pass, and it can be changed. So how would you advise people in the private sector to look at not only this law, but as time goes forward, how should we look at any law to prepare to somehow accommodate it or work within its confines? I just don't get it.
I think, Congressman, that's the reason that the hearing is so important, and it's the reason the challenges before the Supreme Court are so important. The president may think that he doesn't have that he can change the law at his will, but businesses don't. Tens of billions of dollars have been spent by companies inside and outside the health sector to comply with this law. Individuals have to comply because there are penalties that will be enforced if they don't. So it is not optional for the American people to not comply. And for the administration to set a precedent, I think does really get to a much larger question than this law. It really is fundamentally the rule of law, and that the Supreme Court challenges, I think, get to that fundamental question.
Can I just ask you one question? Because maybe there's some confusion in the office of the president, but what did the president do before he was elected president? My understanding is it came from the academic world, right?
Constitutional law instructor. the University of Chicago.
Okay, so there really wouldn't be much cloudiness in his idea of what the Constitution is or what it contains. I thank you all for being here, and I yield back. Thank you.
Mr.